Welcome and thank you for attending our webinar. We're coming to you today, Wednesday, December 13th, 2017, from sunny San Diego and snowy Toronto. I hope all is well where you are in the world. The title of our webinar today is Search Terms and Design Complexity, a tutorial before modernizing or migrating. My name is Courtney. I'm the marketing manager at Teamstudio. I'm your host today. Brian Arnold is a technical director here at Teamstudio, and he's your presenter. I'm going to go over some administrative points, then I'll let Brian introduce himself and begin with our topic today. So the administrative points, the attendee list is private. You're all muted, so if you have a question or comment during the webinar, please type it into the chat panel on your GoToMeeting control panel. We've reserved some time at the end of this session for Q&A. If you have any questions, please type them into the chat panel. I'll read them aloud at the end of the webinar, and Brian will answer them verbally. Today, Brian is going to talk about proprietary design concepts, finding where they're in use, and how two of our software tools can help with this as you prepare for your modernization or migration projects. After that, we'll have time for questions. Okay, Brian, go ahead and take control of the screen and we'll get started.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Arnold. I'm a technical director at Teamstudio. I've been working with Teamstudio and their applications for close to 15 years now. Within that time, I've seen and done a lot of things using their applications or our applications, and today I wanted to demonstrate two of them to you that can help with your modernization process. So I'm just going to share my screen at this point. Okay, so the two applications that I will be covering today are our Teamstudio Adviser application and Teamstudio Configurator. Adviser at a high level is an application that can assist organizations in making decisions about what to do with their IBM Notes and Domino applications. Adviser scans your Domino servers to aid organizations like your own in understanding what the IBM Notes databases they have, who is using them, their overall design complexity, and what to do with those databases next. In comparison, Configurator is an application that can scan the design of a specific Notes database to locate and optionally replace simple search terms within your code. So this is just an overview of what the applications look like. I will be getting right into the application shortly. What I want to demonstrate today is how each of these applications can search design within your application, within your Notes databases for certain proprietary coding that is available within your Notes developer or your Domino developer that can cause issues when migrating to a different platform such as SharePoint or Salesforce.com or just standard web applications. So I wanted to concentrate on a few search terms that I've used many times in deployment of the applications and in demonstrations. These are the ones that I have found just through my experience that can cause issues when migrating to different platforms. So I have a list on my screen here. I don't want to go too much into each one of them. I will be going in, concentrating on three of them today and how you can locate that code within your applications and start your migration process. So the three I'm going to focus on mainly are @mailSend, @dbcolumn, and @environment. These are all very proprietary to a Notes environment. There are other platforms that do similar functions to those, but the way that you can code them in Notes and Domino is very simple, and I'll be showing you code examples of how they are much more complex in other platforms. Carrying on with that, I'll just go through the code examples first, and then I'll delve into the applications themselves. So the first one is just add environment. A simple process that can be used in a Notes application to store temporary values and retrieve them at a future time. They can be stored, they are stored within an environment or a configuration file called a notes.ini. It's available in every instance of Notes. It's actually a fundamental file that is required, and developers can read and write to that file. So you can see here, the formula language is very simple. The Lotus script is an extra line, but not that much more difficult. And to do this on the web or in SharePoint, any web-based application, you then have to start using different methodologies. In this case, I'm using what's called a local storage, which is a somewhat newer methodology within web development, where you can store temporary variables and access them in the future. And you can see here, it's not a lot more code for JavaScript, but you would need to recode any references to add environment that you may have. So a little bit more involved with the JavaScript. Carrying on to @mail_send, again, a very simple function, @ formula to design in formula language. You can see here it's a single line, a single call to a formula, that @ formula function, and you can send an email with multiple recipients, subject line, and the body of the email. In Lotus script, you can see it does become a little bit more complex because you need to construct the document itself and set values on it prior to sending. And similar in C#, which is, as I've noted here, a very common programming language for ASP.NET, which can also be used in SharePoint. You can see it is a little bit more complex as well, similar to Lotus script. The final one here is @dbcolumn. Again, a very simple thing to perform in formula language. It allows you to reference a database, not necessarily the database that you are designing in, but any database on any Domino server that you can access, and it can return you the values in a column in a view, and then you can use those in keyword values or any other type of lookup that you require. Again, a very simple formula call to perform that function. Lotus script, it does become a little bit more complex. I've actually designed a function within JavaScript to simulate or emulate an @db column, and you can see the call here at the start looks very simple, but the code behind it here, the actual function call, is very complex. And as you can see, it scrolls well off of my slide and continues down at least 3 slides down. So you can see recoding that can be very complex when you start looking at having to replace some of these very simple but very proprietary @formula calls. Now, switching into the applications, I'll first show you how Adviser can be used to search and locate any @formula calls or any simple code design. So this is the Adviser interface. It is a web interface for accessing the information. I'm going to be focusing on complexity today. I'm just going to switch over quickly to how this is configured. So it's as simple as giving a list of values that you want to search for within your code. Now, the simpler, the better. If you add too much of a description, it can cause Adviser to not be able to find the code. So just using simple functions or Lotus script calls or Java calls that are within your application that you want to search for, it will give you very positive results. Other ways that this has been used is if there are references to file servers or shared files or shared directories on file servers, you can search for that within an application as well. Once the Adviser application has performed its scans, it will return the results within this web application as well. So I'm just switching over to the complexity module. We provide a series of views. The one I am going to be focusing on is the search term. From within here, we can actually see exactly where each of these search terms were located, or sorry, the quantity of times or databases where these search terms were found. I can then shortlist it by clicking on these and see the actual databases where that search term was found. And then drilling into the application, I can see a list of all the search terms that were found within that application very quickly, the number of times each one of those search terms were located, and then continuing to drill down, it will also show me the design elements itself, where those search terms were found. This can assist very quickly in tagging these applications for migration. So if you have teams of developers that are proficient with doing certain types of migration, you can assign these databases for that migration task to those teams. Also, clicking on these will show you any other search terms that were located on those design elements, and what we also call our common problems, which can also cause issues during migration processes. From there, you can also very easily tag these applications. So if there's a team that is proficient in performing mail send migrations of code, you can very quickly and easily assign it to that team. So and then I can later on go to another view that shows by tag, and then I can perform exports of this information and provide it to the teams who will be performing the work. In comparison, if I now switch over to my notes client, I will show you how Configurator works in a similar fashion. So for Adviser, it performs a search on each and every database that's on the targeted servers for those search terms. So it's returning results of all applications, which is great on a high level to see where those terms are being used. But then you may want to drill down and see exactly how many times those search terms were used in a particular environment. For that, we have an application called Configurator. So I'll just launch into an application here as a demonstration. So this is just a simple contact list application, fairly typical of a legacy application. Once in the application, I can invoke the Teamstudio Configurator application itself. Within this application, you can locate individual design elements, or you can search and find any reference to anything within the application itself. So in this case, I'm going to do at environment, because I want to see everywhere that at environment is used within this application. I can, at this point, replace it with a different value if I want to, or I can just create a report and find any instance and give me an overall count of where that is being used. It will either just display it on the screen, or as an option, you can also have it output to a specific database. So I'll have it output to a database called Configurator Output. And I'll run this now. So I'm going to do a find all. I can also step through the code and find them one at a time, very similar to a find and replace in Notes or any other application for that matter. But right now, I just want to find all and perform a report on that. So I'm going to run this. It's very quick, and it actually found 202 instances of at environment within this application. Now to see the results, I'll switch back out to my workspace here and I'll open up that database. So it's created this database during the run of that search. And we can see here, it's created a report. This one has created a summary, so it tells me the high level. But I can alternately, if I go back in here and run that again, I can also create a more detailed report and create documents for each output. So I'm going to do a separate document for each. Normally that would show you documents for each one. I'll show here, there's a better report. So this one is showing me a report of that same database. Oh, sorry, a similar database, which provides me with a list of every design element itself, where those hits were found. And then when I open it up, it will tell me exactly how many times it was found on each design element. From here, then you can go into that design element, perform your standard Domino designer searches, and locate that code and start your remediation into a different platform. We also do have other companion products, the most powerful one being Analyzer, which can also output information about each design element and show you exactly the code and where those terms are being used as well. All right, that is the end of the demonstration. I can open it up now for questions.
All right, thanks, Brian. Well done. A lot of really useful tips in that presentation. I am putting the Q&A slide up right now, and that should be showing. So let's see. We do have some questions lined up. If you do have a question but haven't typed it into the chat panel on your GoToMeeting control panel yet, please feel free to do so now. With that said, our first question is from John. Which tool is better for searching for items in code, Adviser or Configurator?
Okay, well, both can search code, as I just demonstrated. Adviser does search for items in all databases on the Domino server. So if you're looking for a high-level count of how many times a search term or an item is located in all of your databases, then Adviser is the better product because it will give you a more complete picture of all applications in your environment. Configurator, by default, only searches one database at a time. But if you want to know exactly how many times an item or a search term is located on each design element, then it's a better candidate to use. So it depends on what your end outcome is, what you're looking for. If you're looking just for a very high level count, then Adviser is the best. If you're looking for more of a detailed count, then Configurator is a better product to use.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay. Next question from Nathan. Can Adviser help with migrating notes documents?
Adviser is more of an application to give you a high-level overview of your entire Domino, all of your Domino servers and all of the applications on your Domino server. That being said, we are in the midst of just finishing off and polishing off a new application called Teamstudio Export, which will actually assist in migrating notes documents to an XML format. And it will also provide an XML viewer so you can see the legacy data after the application has been archived off of your Domino servers. So that being said, we're targeting a release end of January, early February, and we'll be most likely performing webinars such as this to demonstrate that application as well in the near future.
Yes, I echo that. There will be some upcoming webinars about that new tool. Okay, so next question from Carlos. We're merging with another company and consolidating our servers. Can you provide some examples of search terms that we should use for this project?
Okay, so a good example of what might be happening there is, in many cases, Domino developers will use hard-coded references to a Domino server in their applications. So, if you're, using Lotus script or formula language and you're performing, let's say, a DB lookup or a DB column, many cases that application, or sorry, that line of code will reference the server specific. So if you're migrating from one server to another when your companies merge, you're going to need to see where the original server was referenced. So you can either use, if you know the application where that may have occurred, you can use Configurator for that. And that's an excellent example of how the search and replace functionality within Configurator works. Because you can search for the previous server name that is being retired and enter the new server name, and Configurator will actually go through the code and perform a replace of the original server name, and at that time you can also recompile your code. Again, you can also use Adviser if you know the server name but you don't know where it is being referenced. You can use that as a search term in Adviser, and it will return you results of everywhere within your Domino server environment where that original server name was in use. And then you can go and locate those applications and using Configurator, perform your search and replace again.
All right, got it. Okay, next question from Dexter. Within Adviser, I found I can type !mail in the search field to ignore the keyword mail. Is there documentation on what syntax can be typed into that search field?
Good question. I know we are expanding upon what can be used in search terms in a near soon to be released version. I'll have to get back to you on that. I believe they will be documenting all of the syntax that can be used. So that will be coming with the new update as well.
Cool. Okay, so we'll get back to you, Dexter. All right, it looks like we have 2 more questions right now, and then we'll wrap up unless any others come through. From Sam, can these tools be used to locate references to old shared file drives?
Yes. So again, very similar to my other responses. If you're just looking to see where shared directories or shared folders are in use within your entire Domino platform, you're best to use Adviser to get that short list. Just using the search term, and you can enter in just the shared folder name with the slashes, of course, and we will search through the code looking for those. Once you found those, if you're changing from one file server to another, you can definitely use Configurator to perform the search and replace and update your design as well.
Okay, cool. So Sebastian asks if it's possible to have an idea of pricing for Teamstudio Adviser. Could you speak
Sure.
to that? I know it is going to depend on organization and servers, but could you speak to that?
Sure. So we do have a pricing model, and if you contact one of our sales reps, they can send you a link to our return on investment calculator for Adviser. The pricing is tiered, so it all depends on how many servers the Adviser system will scan. The more servers you need to scan, we provide deep discounts at the 5 server level and above. A single server scanning a single server in your environment is $2,500. But once you start adding servers, it very quickly drops in price. I'll just look at the calculator here. I believe after it does start to drop dramatically in price after 5. So once you have 5 servers, it goes down to $1,100 per server. And it continues to drop the more you add on. So if you are scanning 10 servers, it drops down to $1,000, and it just continues to drop the more you add.
Cool. Yeah. So, Sebastian, if you'd like more information specifically for your organization, feel free to email me. You probably got a lot of reminder emails from me for this webinar, or you can fill out a form on our website and one of our account managers will get right back to you. Alrighty, so last question we have lined up for today is from Rick. Rick asks, when scanning for ODBC references, is it better to do a general ODBC search or break this up into multiple specific search terms related to ODBC?
Okay. Well, the easy answer is better to search for the actual call, the actual class name within Lotus script. The only reason for that is if you just say ODBC, because that's not a class within Lotus script, there is a chance that you would receive a false positive if the letters ODBC were located anywhere else in the application, such as just in a comment. We also do search through comments. So using a more defined class name like ODBC connection or ODBC query, it will give you more positive results, because that's the actual coding methodology that you would use in Lotus script. So it's better to use a more precise call than using less letters, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, that's all the questions we have. Thank you, Brian. So if you'd like to see any aspect of Advisor or Configurator in more detail, or if you think of a question later, please contact us anytime through our website or by emailing me. Thank you very much for joining us today. Happy holidays. We look forward to seeing you on another webinar in 2018. Bye now.